All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me this time. We're going to get going here. If you can hear me, please let me know in the comments because I'm not going to talk to myself for an hour like last weekend, or sorry, last Thursday, and not realize it. So I'm not really going to start talking about Amazing Spider-Man and the Curse of the Man thing until I get someone in the comments letting me know that they can hear me. Oh, very great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So I'll let a couple of people straggle in here before I start to talk about this comic disaster. I just want to talk a little bit about what I've been reading this week. So I went into my local comic shop and I bought a stack of old Conan. And I'm reading this along with my other books. I'm just reading the new ones. That's all I do my comic reviews on. Although I'm wondering whether anybody would actually like me to do reviews of older comic books as well. That will be something that I would love to do if I have time, because what I'm trying to do is read at least one a day, along with the Conan that I bought. So it was a stack of Conan. It's early Conan that I haven't had in my collection before. So there's somewhere between there's only about 20 of them and they're not continuous. So they're between, I think, number 40 and they end somewhere around 75. So it was a good little run that I picked up of Conan, which they had just gotten in. So I was really lucky. Anyway, I just wanted to let everybody know what I was reading with my new comics this week because I was really surprised. I'm always really surprised when I read older things, even Conan, and compare them with newer comics when I'm reading them both at the same time in the same sitting. And you see just how different they are. And especially, I mean, you don't think Conan would be a book where you would get a lot of dialogue, but honestly, there is so much dialogue and so much, I guess, narration in the background as well. Compared to a modern comic, it's really strange, and it's a hack and slash. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about the Amazing Spider-Man Curse of the Man thing. I read this the other day and I did a comic review on it, and a lot of people were saying I was easy on it for giving it a 4. And they were looking at the art in it and going, really? You're giving it a 5? Well, I'm going to go over a couple of things about just the basics of this story, why it is so bad, before I get into the meat of this thing, because there is a really meaty part of it. And some of the things that I really didn't like about this book, well, first of all, I'm just resigned to the fact that Marvel uses garbage paper for its books right now. Honestly, I buy Marvel and then I buy a DC book right next to it, and you can see how flimsy the Marvel paper is. But of course, these are comics, and I guess really it's what they've always done with comics, use the cheapest paper available. But still, I mean, if DC can afford better paper somehow and not have any higher prices, then maybe Marvel could do the same. But, anyways, my point being that if I'm going to pay $5 for a book and it's going to be on crappy paper, at the very least, give me a story on every page. There's at least 4 wasted pages in this book. There is the first introduction page, which I always consider a wasted page. Although with this one, when I picked it up, I didn't realize it was part of a continuous story because this is basically a mini event that has to do with Man Thing. Now, let me put some of the pictures, some of the pages in the background here for you. Just give me 1 second. I'll put that up. And again, I'll apologize to everyone for the, we'll say, lack of quality for these pages. I still have not figured out how StreamYard works and how I can stream with a higher resolution because I'm uploading these things to StreamYard and I don't understand. I'll figure it out eventually. But anyway, the thing being that, as I said, if I'm going to buy a $5 book, please give me at the very least story on every page. There's 4 wasted pages. The first page is the page where it gives you that introduction. I hate those pages. If I'm reading Conan, right? And they have this page right here. Something like that. It would all be put at the very top of the Conan page and then at the first page, right? It's a page of the comic. It's not a wasted page on older books. You take all that, put it down in the corner for all of your people that worked on the book and the little bit of description that goes way up at the top. And it doesn't have to be a wasted page. It drives me nuts. But besides that, there are chapter heading pages of this book where it gives you chapter, because this is part of a continuous story, as I said. So these, even though it's a number one, and that's partly why I bought it, I figured it was a new story and a maybe standalone story, or at the very least, number one in a miniseries, which it isn't. It's number one of probably the only book that it's going to be. But it's chapters 4, 5, and 6 of the Man Thing story. So with every chapter start, they have an entire page of the Man Thing, his face, and basically you can see the guy's eye inside Man Thing's red eye, and it's a close up of Man Thing's face. I mean, at the very least, at the absolute minimum, can you please give me a good shot of Man Thing? If you want to say chapter 5, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, give me a splash page of a pinup of Man Thing. Don't use the same image 3 times in a row and just waste the pages. Anyways, that drove me insane as well. But the story makes no sense to me. Besides the fact that, yes, when I read that introduction page, I was like, okay, I'm going to read this introduction page, even though I usually skip them, because if it's chapter 4, then maybe it will catch me up. And even after reading the introductory page, I could not understand what in the world was going on. It started using, what did it? It uses these words for the villains and the other people that have to do with the Man Thing. They're called the horticulturists or something like that. Anyways, it made no sense to me. The introduction page, even though it's supposed to be explaining the backstory for the first part of the chapter 1, 2, and 3, which aren't in this book, it made no sense. Anyway, what was I saying? Right. The fact that the story makes no sense in itself, but even within the story, even in this book, it makes no sense. Because what you have is Man Thing, basically, he has been reduced to just a couple of weeds, and he takes over the body of Captain America, and Captain America goes into the mindscape of the man inside Man Thing and talks to him about, you have to come back and be the Man Thing again because someone's usurping your power and using it to destroy the entire earth. Okay, the backstory of that, I'll get to that. But what happens is that Captain America can't convince him of this. He said, I want to talk to one of my old pals. Maybe he'll have something for me that will inspire me to do so. And his old pal is the scientist who became the lizard. So he gets the lizard, and the lizard gets sucked into this mindscape of Man Thing. And then the lizard, which isn't the lizard at that point, he's the, what is it, Dr. Connors? That is actually the scientist who is part of the lizard when he's a human form. He can't do anything with him either. And so he says, you need to talk to Spider-Man. So they go again and then find Spider-Man and get Spider-Man to go into the Man Thing mindscape. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this makes zero sense. First of all, you have the person in the background, these people here that have usurped the Man Thing's power and are using it to attack the earth. They are, well, the one at the bottom, the one with the white hair. I don't even remember her name, and nor do I really care. But she's using it to attack the earth, and so that's the so-called action within this book. Because when you're in the mindscape of the Man Thing, it's nothing. They're just standing around in a swamp. Nothing happens. But why in the world would you have to go from Captain America to the Lizard to Spider-Man? It makes zero sense in a storytelling environment. Okay. Besides the fact that there's no action, all there is talking within the mindscape. And all Spider-Man does is say to him, look, I've been there. Look, I've been in times where I felt really bad and, just thought the world was against me and I didn't have a place in it, certainly not as a hero or anyone else. And they just sit there and talk. They sit there and talk, by the way, I don't have the picture here, but they sit there and talk while Spider-Man is sitting like an old woman with his legs crossed and his hands across his lap. It's pathetic. I'm sorry. He looks like an old woman. And if I'm looking at my anatomy correctly, the way his hands are on his lap, his thumb is on the wrong side of his hand. So this is the quality of the art that you're going to get in this book. Some of it anyways, because they switch artists halfway through, which I also hate. But the major reason why I really don't like this book is the basis of what it is talking about. And what it is talking about is you have this woman, part of the horticulture. I can't remember the name of it. And again, nor do I really care because it means nothing. Wait a second. I'll put that back up for you. And she's using Man-Thing's powers to attack the Earth, because basically what it says is, since the Industrial Revolution, mankind has had its hand on the throat of the Earth and is throttling it. And so this woman is attacking humanity on behalf of the planet Earth to try to destroy humanity. Okay? So you got your environmental nonsense in there, which I'm going to talk about. But before I talk even about that, the point being that, what is it? I don't even remember what I was going to say. Give me a second here. It's not just the environmentalist nonsense in this book, but at the same time, oh yeah, this mini event is happening with the attack of plants and sort of gargoyle like pollen, basically, that are little cherub things that attack people. And it's happening all over the earth, apparently. And the Man-Thing fire is attacking people. And basically, they're trying to make people not afraid, because the Man-Thing is he who fears burns at the touch of Man-Thing, right? So this is what's going on over the entire earth. This is another event in a series of events. Can you imagine living in the Marvel universe where all of this stuff is happening, where there is an attack on a world scale from one power or another every month? I don't think that this planet would actually exist in the fashion that it actually does, with Marvel saying that, the people at Marvel saying, this is the world outside your window. No, I'm sorry. Even if we're talking about a superhero world, if you have an event, a world, how do you say it? A world destroying event every month. No, I'm sorry. That's not the world outside your window. And what kind of people would live on this world to begin with? People who can't get off it, I suppose. But still, there would be no, it would not look like the world outside your window. There would be some kind of world government or some kind of world defense at the very least. I hate world government, but world defense at the very absolute minimum. Anyways, drive me insane. But the point is about the eco-terrorists. Now, I did a video about this. It was a Aquaman one I did probably about a year ago. And I ruffled some feathers with that one. So I'm going to go into some of that right now. And I'm probably going to tick a couple of people off. But just listen to me. Let me get to the end, even though I'm bumbling and stumbling all over the place tonight. The thing is that I did a video, it was 7 months ago, because it was a Halloween. And it was about a Marvel podcast where they talked about some of the stories that they're going to write in the future. And these are the stories that you see right now, what they were talking about. And what they were talking about is things that scared them. One was going to write Mobius. And I don't even know, has the Mobius movie come out yet? I have no clue. If it did, it didn't come into any place that I know of. And if it did come out, who really cared? I don't know. If it did come out, let me know in the comments. But one of them was writing Mobius, talking about the living vampire, and that's what scared them. The other one, well, there was three. I can't remember what the second or third one talked about. One of the others talked about eco-horror. And this is what you see in this Man-Thing. That's what you got right here. Eco-horror. And this is the product of what they were talking about publishing 7 months ago. Now, what is eco-horror? Well, it is your quote-unquote progressive SJWs in their navel gazing, being so completely terrified of the destruction of the environment of the planet. And because it horrifies them and makes them afraid so much that they write entire horror stories around the theme of the world is going to die because we're destroying it, because we need to be environmentalists and we're not. So that's what this story is basically set upon. Okay. Now, I'll get into this and I won't go too deep into it, but I just say, and again, listen to me to the end if you disagree with me. This whole thing, this environmentalist thing, again, drives me nuts because it is a bunch of nonsense. Okay. Now I say this as someone who lives in the middle of the woods. All right. I built a cabin in the woods with my own hands, with simple tools. I know I do most of the things that environmentalists ask people to do. I don't do them because I'm an environmentalist. Most people, if they make it out to my house, they think I'm some kind of environmentalist nut. Why? Because of all the things I've done to my house. But I haven't done them because I'm an environmentalist. I've done them because, well, first of all, I'm very Scottish and I'm cheap. And I found that actually doing things the old way in building a house, it was actually the most efficient way to do things. So I have all of this stuff around me. You know, I have passive solar and I burn wood. I don't use oil. And I even have my own power generator and everything like that. And I grow a lot of my own food. Why? Because I love nature. That's why. Not because I'm an environmentalist nut. It's because I love nature. And that's the point. My point is that I love truth. That's exactly why I do things. I love truth. And reality is in accord with the truth. And nature is a part of reality. And therefore, I love nature because I love the truth. And therefore, I'm going to do what I can to what surrounds me in nature because I love the truth. But what these people base environmentalism on is fear. And that's it. It's just fear. Because I honestly was watching, I ran across this thing. Okay, I'll put this up in the background one more time. I was watching this thing I ran across on YouTube. It was an environmentalist little video that was being put out to school children, young school children, right? And I know this because you go through the comments at the bottom, and all the comments, well, not all the comments, but every third or fourth comment you would get, are you just here because your teacher made you be here? Yeah. So it's for kids, young kids in school, and it was talking about all this environmental garbage. And they said all of the things that you should do if you want to be environmentally friendly. And I was thinking to myself, okay, I do that. Okay, I do that. Okay, I do that. I checked off all the boxes, all the things they wanted people to do. I already did those things. Why? Because I live in the country. But everything that these people were saying was still nonsense. I didn't agree with any of it, even though I do all this stuff for an entirely different reason. You know that if someone came out again to where I live and saw all this and thought it was so great because I'm environmentally friendly, and then I told them exactly why I did these things, they would look at me and say, oh, no, that's not right. And that's the entire point, right? The entire point is it's not that you do what they say, it's that you believe the basis of what they're trying to teach you, so you do what they say. So if you actually do these things, you got to believe from where it comes from. You got to be afraid. See, I don't do these things because I'm afraid. I don't do these things out of fear. I do these things out of love of truth. I do these things because I love being out in nature. That's where I love to be. I mean, what did I do today? Like after I did most of my work, what did I do for my afternoon? I went out and with a crowbar, with a 4-foot crowbar, and a couple of hatchets and a couple of shovels, and tore stumps out of my, well, what I want to be my yard, because I cut down the trees, 5 years ago. But that's what's fun to me. I think of that as fun, right? I spend that time outside. Great. But again, these people, these environmental nuts, it's all about fear. It's not about you love the outdoors. It's about fear. It's about selling you fear. And that's exactly what this story is about. You see, because it's eco horror, because they're so afraid of everything. It's all the world is going to die. We're going to overpopulate the earth. We're going to have rising tides and the entire earth is going to be destroyed. All of this is nonsense, but it's just there to sell you fear. First of all, I know the history of this planet, and for the history of most of this planet, we've been way, way hotter than right now. You go back to before the dinosaurs, and there was no water. No, there was no ice on this planet to begin with. But anyways, I know I'm ranting. And the thing is that, no, I'm sorry. If you have no ice, and yes, there is a rising water level. Yeah, well, again, back in, I don't know, what is it? Precambrian period, or even during the Triassic and Jurassic, you had most of Central and Western North America covered in an ocean. So it was just different, right? Who cares? It didn't destroy the planet. That's my point. And again, it's all doom and gloom. It's all, we got to be afraid. Why do I have to be afraid? There's nothing wrong with the planet. It's not going to be destroyed. And the whole overpopulation thing, don't get me started on that. Malthus said, what was it? Probably 300 years ago. Yeah, we're going to overpopulate the planet. And the Romans thought they were going to overpopulate the planet. It was not true for Malthus. It was not true for the Romans. And it's not true for us either. Again, do you know that there are parts of Canada, and I do believe even parts of Russia as well, parts of Canada at the very least, where it is estimated that no human being has yet set foot. Now, I'm sure planes have gone over top of it and we have satellite imagery of it, but places where no human being has yet set foot. Now, I'm sure it's not the most, luxurious place in the world, and it might not be a place where people could live, but at the very least, if we thought about the technology and the way to actually move people into different parts of the world. My point being, overpopulation is nonsense. So the whole thing is that the whole environmentalist movement is there to set you on edge, to sell you fear, to make you afraid. Why? Because it's got nothing to do with the environment. Trust me, as someone who lives in the country, all of their problems that they come up with are city problems, and all of their solutions are city solutions. That's the entire problem that's going on in the world today. I don't know why anybody else has not picked up on this. It's city people versus country people. That's it. Because in the 1990s, you had the first time ever in human history, more people living in cities than living in the country. And all of these environmental nonsense things that they ask you to do, it's all city people not understanding that when you live in the country, you do these things anyway. And they're talking about things like, you got to conserve water. No, don't have to conserve water. Why do I have to be forced to buy all the water conserving nonsense utilities that you have, like low flush toilets and everything else, when I don't have my house hooked up to anything that is a system like you have in the city? I have a well that goes 80 feet into the ground. I get my water out of a river that goes through the earth 80 feet down, and it goes out after it's used into the septic system. The whole thing is completely separate and independent of itself. Your whole conserving water nonsense is just nonsense. It makes no sense to where I live. It makes no sense. But anyways, again, all they're doing is selling you fear. And that's what eco horror is about. And that's what this man thing issue is about. It's supposed to be eco horror. It's supposed to set you on edge. It's supposed to be something that makes you afraid. Now, if you're not afraid of this nonsense, this makes zero sense. As I said, the whole thing makes zero sense. If you're not completely deathly afraid that the world is going to end because you don't recycle, then this makes zero sense as a story. And of course, the only people who believe that are the people who are already taken in by the progressive nonsense. Because again, all you got to do is look up some very simple environmental science, which, by the way, here's the funny thing. All you got to do is look up this simple stuff and you'll see that it's not true. There's a really good guy on YouTube. You want to take a look. His name is Tony Heller. He was a former environmental scientist. He was actually part of a group that started making the first circuits for computers and things like that, programs for computers. And he's looking at all of these models and he's looking at all of this so-called trust the science about environmentalism. And he's saying, this isn't true, this isn't true, this isn't true. And he gives you, in the background charts and information to show you exactly why. His latest video was really funny because he said that, do you know what Sleepy Joe and the Harris administration are doing right now? They're deleting from government websites all of the information from government studies and everything else that contradict the whole narrative of you got to be afraid because environmentalism, if we don't do it right away, it's going to kill the planet. It's Orwellian. That's what it is. But again, the whole point is, once again, not to give you an entire picture of everything, not to give you information. It's to sell you fear, because they sell you fear. And then you'll say, oh, I'm so afraid I'll give up my liberties so that I'll give you the power. And then you have all the power. That's exactly what it is. And that's what this book is about. This book is about, again, selling you fear. It's based upon the premise of the world has been at the feet of mankind since the Industrial Revolution started. That man has been choking, honestly, the picture that you give, the picture that they give in, I think, the first of this book is a man standing with a woman and his hand around her throat, choking her. That's the image that they give you. And of course, mankind is the man, and the woman is the earth. Again, I'm sorry for ranting on this, but this book really drove me insane, and that's why I wanted to include it in what I was doing tonight. Maybe you guys found some sort of value in this book. I don't know. Maybe you found no value whatsoever in what I had to say. But honestly, it makes zero sense unless you believe the lie of you need to be afraid because the earth is going to die. If you don't buy into that, you don't understand what eco horror is. If you don't understand what eco horror is, then this entire storyline makes no sense. And again, this is not me pulling this out of my hat. This is what Marvel talked about on a Marvel podcast with Marvel writers 7 months ago at Halloween, talking about what they were afraid of and what they were writing in the future. And they're going to write eco horror. So again, I'm going to go through the comments because I'm going to try to stick to my hour rule. Usually I'm only here for an hour. I try to be anyways. I'm going to stick to that. So I'm going to go through the comments, see if any of you guys have any questions, any comments that are directed towards me. And I will stop showing you this man thing in the background and put up some Thomas Valiant stuff pretty soon. So before I do that, I just want to let everybody know again, once again, that I do put up new videos besides live streams. I do my normal videos every weekend, and it's either on a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on what time zone you're in. So if you're not getting notified about my videos, I do put one up every weekend. I haven't missed a weekend for a long time. And I also do the 10-second comic reviews over on my community section of this YouTube channel. So usually I do about 3, maybe 4 a week, just to let everybody know in case you're not getting any notifications or anything about my channel. And just to let everybody know again, the link is in the description for my graphic novel, Thomas Valiant. It is an 80-page giant, and we are working furiously trying to get things done. Just a little update on that. We have gotten a letterer ready to do the first half of the book. And the coloring for the first half of the book is almost done completely. So we're working away, chipping away, making sure we try and get everything done by the shipping date. We're hoping to print in December and ship at the very least, we'll say, at the earliest, we'll say late December, early January of next year. That was the original date that we had set for trying to get everything out. But link is in the description for Thomas Valiant, my graphic novel, if anybody wants to go on over and see if that book is for you. Okay, so I'm going to go through the comments and just see who's here. Bogey was here. He couldn't stay. That's a shame. Daniel is here. And he said he enjoys this series. I want to know, Daniel, this series about Man Thing, or what series are you talking about? Because if you do enjoy the Man Thing, just let me know exactly what you enjoy about it. Because I bought this thinking that it would be something I would enjoy, and not in any way did I enjoy this. Rex says, hey, how you doing, RJ? I'm doing great. Let's see who else is here. Barry is here. Let's see, scrolling down a little bit, we have Darcy. Good morning. Well, where I am, it's the middle of the night. Let's see. Oh, let me put some Thomas Valiant up here so you can see a little bit of what you're missing if you haven't ordered the Thomas Valiant book, which, again, link for it is in the description. We have Mudvalve. Hello, fellow comic fans and thinking people. Very good. I agree. Thinking people, that's what we need, thinking people. Daniel, very greatly appreciate it when you told me you could hear me, because last week, literally, I talked for more than half an hour and didn't realize, because I hadn't gone through the comments, that people couldn't hear me. So yes, I'm inept. So scrolling down, we'll see if we have any comments. Caleb says, try to do more reviews of older comics. Add some variety to your channel. Well, here's the thing. I might do some 10-second comic reviews of my channel, or on my channel. But the thing is that I would love to do more, but YouTube works really oddly in the fact that I can't do any more than one post per day. the one will eclipse the other, so you won't get both of them. And I think one won't show up. I tried to do a couple of experiments with it, and one of them, the new one, would not show up until the old one's time limit went out. And I think it's half a day or more than half a day. And the thing, I would love to do more videos, but those videos about older comics just don't get any traction whatsoever. I would love to do more, especially I would love to have the time to do more. But I think that I might just be doing some live streams if I do about older comics. So scrolling down a little bit, KJ says, hey RJ, what's up? Well, just reading comics, that's all that's up. Tom says, I would love RJ reviews of old Conan comics. I would love to review old Conan comics. Honestly, review them, not so much review them. I suppose I could review, but it would be more of a, this is why it works. And whereas you would look at normal modern comics, today's current comics, and say, these are all the things that don't work. And here's the couple of things that do work. Where you would go to an older comic like Conan and say, these are all the things that do work. And here's a couple of things in the background that don't, right? The funny thing, Tom, about Conan, and again, I'm reading Conan, the stack of Conan that I just bought, which again, starts around number 40. And there are a couple of runs in the 20 that I bought. And the thing about Conan that I never really realized, because mostly anyways, I was someone who only bought Conan, I think it was after, it was about 200 that I started to buy it on a regular basis. And, I bought it before that, but it's always one here, one there when I could pick it up. When you read the series in order, you realize that even though they are one shots, and it looks like a one shot because it's a little snapshot and it's a complete story, and it only has to do with what is going on within the pages of that one book. The entire thing, when you read them in order, you see that each story continues on to the next story in so much as Conan is affected by it. Whereas he's traveling towards some place and he's going through a desert, because I'm reading 41, 42, 43 right now. And he's going through a desert, and he starts at one side of the desert in number 40, I think it is. And then number 41, he's in the middle of the desert near some kind of oasis. And then at the end, which is 42, he actually gets out of the desert and is in the city of thieves, which is where he was going to. So the stories themselves don't connect, in that they don't have any other character besides Conan that replay in these comics. And if you read them, you would think this is just a one-shot story. It doesn't have any connection with any of the other stories. But it actually has a lot of connection if you actually read them all and read them in order, one continuously after another. It's really amazing. And I knew that happened after 200 when I read the newer comics, but I didn't realize it was all the way through, which I should have, because, well, I just tend to read things here, there, and just pick one up and read it. I rarely read runs, but I'm doing that right now as much as I am possible, because as much as it is possible for me, whereas I don't have that many runs of the early ones, certainly not as early as 40. So Francisco says, hi, RJ. Francisco, hello, very, very good to see you. So, excuse me. Devin says, do you expect the paper to improve when Marvel moves to Penguin Random House? I don't know. I really don't. I don't think that a large company would actually see any value within comics, honestly. So no, I really don't see any movement in the direction of putting them on better paper. So Caleb says, I want to ask a question for everyone. Are you conservative or have a license towards conservatism? I think everybody knows the answer for me on that question. If you're on my live stream, you've probably listened to my videos and you know exactly where I stand on that. So let's see. JD says, wait, first chapter starts with chapter 4. No, the thing is that, JD, this is number 1, Amazing Spider-Man Curse of the Man Thing number 1. And apparently there was another book before this, which was Curse of the Man Thing with someone else than Spider-Man. I guess it was Avengers, probably, from the looks of what happens in this story. And therefore, that was also a number one. And that was chapters 1, 2, and 3. The Spider-Man is 3, 4, no, is 4, 5, and 6. And then there's going to be an X-Men Curse of the Man thing, which is coming out, which should probably be 8, 9, and 10. I'm not entirely sure. So it makes no sense to call this number one. It doesn't. You had older runs in, what was it? The 80s, where you had X-Men versus, right? And there was X-Men versus different groups, but they were 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what they should have done here. But again, number one sells things. And that's why people, they just trick. That's all Marvel does. It just tricks people into buying things right now. Half of the comics are just a trick. Old man is here. Oh, the old man is here. I was waiting for you to come back, old man. I'll read your comment, and then I wanted to, there's something I wanted to talk about, old man. He says, there were 3 people looking at comics in my local store, including myself. That's the most people I've seen in 2 months. It was an afternoon rush. Yeah. Usually by the time I get into my comic store, which is late evening, there's me and another guy. That's it. And that's the most people I've ever seen. So yeah, I don't know if that's regular for this comic shop or not, but comics are not doing well, I have to say. The funny thing, old man, what I wanted to talk about old man is that I love his avatar, which is up there on the screen, which is Leonard Nimoy playing with his Spock costume on, playing a guitar. The funny thing about Leonard Nimoy and a guitar and comics is that in the first comic shop I ever went to on any regular basis, there was in the back a record, because they did sell a couple of other things besides comics at that time. Usually they were far and few between. It was comics wall to wall. But in the back, on a shelf, way far in the back, there was a record for sale, and it was Leonard Nimoy sings the songs of The Hobbit. And I just kicked myself for not having bought that. That is probably a collector's item. I don't know what that would even sound like. Did anyone ever run across that on YouTube or anyplace else? I want to hear Leonard Nimoy sing the songs of The Hobbit. Honestly, I still remember that. Anyways, where's my Thomas Valiant? I'll put that back up. So, scrolling down. Let's see. Yes. Baran, Jay Baran. Bran. I apologize for everybody with their names. Yeah, he says the art doesn't look good. No, it doesn't. Although, as I said, there are at least 2 artists working on this book. I can understand if it was, a large book and Marvel wanted to continually switch out artists, why they can't get one artist to complete a short, what is it, probably 22, 23 page book, if that. I don't understand why they can't do that. Although I'll have to say the main artist for this book is completely hideous. And it's the backup artist who actually had some pages that looked halfway decent. Let's see. So Jabur says, hey, can I push my YouTube channel, John's Longbox? I have a huge comic collection and I do 10-minute video showcasing one a day. It's mostly Marvel from the Bronze Age. So I just pushed it for you. I'll have to look you up. John's Longbox. Okay, that sounds good. John, just a question for you. What is so you say you have a huge comic collection. Tell me what your huge comic collection consists of. How many long boxes do you have? So I'm always interested in finding out how many comics other people have. Daniel, no. Drexel says, Drexel, can we really expect anything good from Steve Orlando? I guess not, honestly. Again, I don't know everybody who is a horrific writer by name yet. Although I'll have to say, I did another 10-second comic review this week of the, X-Men Legends #3. Walter and Louise Simonson getting together once again, to go back and revisit an old X Factor story that never got published. And it went in between issues 42 and 43. That was an amazing book. It came out today. Well, 2 days ago from Marvel, and it was an amazing book. I gave it 9s all the way. And the funny thing was that I put it also on Twitter and I tagged Walter Simonson, and I got some of it wrong because I didn't fill out the entire thing. And Walter Simonson actually sent me a reply saying, "Thanks a lot, but I think you got this point wrong." And I said, "Yes, I did. Thank you very much for pointing that out." So I appreciate that kind of candor and the fact that someone of such great artistic talent would actually take time out of his day to send me a tweet to tell me thank you very much. Anyway, scrolling down. Let's see. Scrolling down. Usually miss your live streams. I'll try to catch it. Well, I try, at the very least, try to put them out at the same time, which is 10 o'clock Eastern on Thursday night. So if you're available at that time, I'm trying to do it at that time because I find it doesn't step on too many toes. I don't want to step all over other people's live streams. Plus, it's one of the few times I can actually have some time to myself. Incubus Time Lord says, old man drawing comics the Marvel way would be considered to be problematic these days. I quite agree. And telling a story the old Marvel way is problematic. And I've done probably videos about that, talking about, well, honestly, the video I point back to most of the time is the Ann Nesenti video with Sana Amanat interviewing her, where she says, no, comics aren't that way anymore. I'm sorry. And she's like patting Ann Nesenti on the head with her words, saying, no, that's not how comics work. Even though Ann Nesenti actually made a great run of comics, which was her Daredevil run, which got me into Daredevil. Well, I read Daredevil before then, but again, I bought it issue after issue after she got onto it. And no, Sana Amanat has produced what? One comic? She was the editor for some. She doesn't know how to make a comic. I'm sorry, but you could not. You are completely right. You could not make a Marvel comic the old way Marvel made comics. So, Kitalala, I hate the fact that I bumble over everybody's name. Hi, RJ. Sorry, I won't be able to watch until after, but I just wanted to drop in and say hi. Tell you in person how much I appreciate your content. Thank you very much. So let's go back to Mudvalve says, yes, I see where we're heading here. Interesting. Yes. It was an interesting, but not in a good way, read. Let's see. Scrolling down, I'll see if I can find any more questions for me, because a lot of you are speaking with each other, which I don't mind at all. I just want to make sure I don't interrupt your conversation. So Incubus says, the Mobius Living Vampire movie is going to be soy woke SJW crap. Oh, well, I literally, I didn't even know if it came out or not. It could have, and I just completely blanked on it, completely missed it. But yeah, it doesn't look terribly good. I never really liked Mobius to begin with. I mean, he's good for a third tier character to shove in every once in a while, but I don't think he deserves a movie. But then again, he deserves a movie more than Kamala Khan. But anyways, so Bunker Holder. No, this is? No, sorry. Burke Holder. B-U-R-K. Burke Holder. I love Truth and Reality. The older scare tactics was overpopulation. Yes, overpopulation. It's always about overpopulation. Again, back from the time of the Romans, that's what it was about. So scrolling down, Incubus Time Lord says, Mobius, let me try to get this up here. Mobius is a vigilante at best and a serial killer at worst. What Jared Leto is going to make him as is a misunderstood anti-hero. Well, again, if you want someone to play a serial killer and a vigilante, Jared Leto is the guy you get. And he's, yes, probably going to mess up everything about the character. So scrolling down, again, I see a lot of people talking about Mobius, but I don't expect anything good from that movie, unfortunately. If it comes out and it is actually good, I will be shocked and amazed, and pleasantly so. So scrolling down. See if I got any more questions. Let's see. Scrolling down. Yeah. Just I want to make a comment on this. Bianica Zombie says, so you're saying we should we should nuke China. I don't know where in this conversation I'm coming in the middle of this conversation. So no, I don't want to put that man thing back up and put Thomas Valiant up. Just one thing that I heard this week, which was funny about talking about Mobius the movie and about China. I heard this week that for the first year ever, the biggest movie of the year has not come out of Hollywood. It has come out of China. So if the Chinese market is what is going to be driving movie making for the next little while, what do you think Hollywood movies are going to look like? Even worse than they look today. And it's going to be playing towards a Chinese audience. That's not going to be good in any way, shape, or form. So scrolling down, let's see more arguments about Mobius in the comments. So scrolling down, David says, I love Tony Heller. Great. I love Tony Heller too. He's a great eye opener. Indeed, he is. I was talking about Tony Heller. He has a YouTube channel, although for how much longer, I don't know, because what he does is what he says, what's his tagline is he pulls back the curtain on junk science, which is exactly what he does. And it's great. So scrolling down, let's see. Yeah, see, this is part of the X-Men that I entirely missed. It's part of the X-Men culture. Horticulture is the worst thing that happened to the X-Men mythos, because that's the name of not the villain, but where the villain comes from in this Amazing Spider-Man and Curse of the Man-Thing book. Anyways, so scrolling down a little bit, we'll just get into where people are talking about my rant. Let's see. Scrolling down. Let's see. Also, just ask Thor to donate blood to relieve all plant life on Earth if humanity. Okay. Okay. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Excuse me. So, Pedro says, at least they could have used Wendigo, but I guess that would be cultural appropriation. I love Wendigo as a character. He's a great villain. And one of the best comic covers ever that I've ever seen is, I don't even know what number it is. It's a Hulk issue where you have Hulk, and then on top of him you have Sasquatch, and then on top of him you have Wendigo, because one's in back of the other, and it's the most beautiful comic cover I have seen in a long time. It's up there. So yes, I think Wendigo is a very good character that should be used more as a villain at the very least. But of course, he has to stay in the wilds in order to actually make any real impact as a villain, I would say. I could be wrong about that, but it seems like that from the older stories. So here's a question. KJ says, hey, RJ, do you plan to use a omniscient narrator in your comic and bring back thought balloons? Well, there are thought balloons in my comic. Not a whole lot of them, but there are thought balloons. There is no omniscient narrator. I was toying with that idea, but there is a couple of little narration boxes which says a few moments later, or in this place, to take you back, to make sure that when you turn the page, you know exactly where you are. But there's no narration besides that. It's complete dialogue and thought balloons. Again, not a whole lot, but yes, I will be using thought balloons because I think they are extremely useful and a much better tool for comics than the narration boxes that they use today. So, Jabua, I hope I'm saying that right, says the back Thomas Valiant, it looks fun. Thank you very much. And for anyone who is just coming in and doesn't know about my graphic novel, Thomas Valiant, the link for it is in the description if you want to go check it out. So, let's see. Daniel says, I was referred to your series of weekly disasters. So, that's great. like I said, I might turn it into every once in a while doing an older comic or a comic that isn't a disaster, but this is all I've come across right now. So scrolling down, Jasper says, I love Renzo's art. I love Renzo's art as well. I was so happy when Renzo contacted me because honestly, if you haven't heard this story before, I've said it so many times, but I was looking for an artist. And I just said on my YouTube channel that I had contacted a few people and I did get a couple of tugs on the line, but it wasn't something that jumped out at me. And I still wanted to find an artist that just clicked with the storytelling or the story that I wanted to tell. And then Renzo contacted me and said, I want to be part of this book. And I said, definitely. You are the person, exactly the person that I'm looking for. Your art is beautiful. It is clean. It is something that is going to go exactly with this story. And I love Renzo's art. I completely agree. So scrolling down a little bit. Time of Dying says, I finished reading Clownfish TV's Shadowbinders today. I really liked it. I hope they will continue it. I haven't got to read it yet. I am behind on my reading of independent comics, unfortunately. So glad to hear that because I do promote it a little bit on my Twitter every Monday because I think it's a book worthy of being promoted. I like to promote things that are, well, just set upon good principles and look like they are a work of passion and done well. So, scrolling down, Mud Valves has a comment. He says, RJ, I heard from another content creator just today that YouTube recently changed its algorithm somehow. Has this changed your channel any? I don't know of any change to the algorithm that I can find, although I do know that they change it every once in a while. And really, it doesn't seem to affect my channel that much. It's cultural things that affect my channel. The whole destruction of Marvel because of the Wuhan virus. It is that actually changed my channel more than anything else, just because of the fact that nothing came out like it used to. But I just deal with YouTube as everything comes along. Pedro says, Thomas Valiant is a classic in progress. Well, thank you very much. I certainly hope it is. I want it to be, and I want to build around this first story into something that will be remembered for a long time. So, KJ says, as a writer, do you aim to tell the story of Thomas Valiant as a work of art or just a fun superhero adventure? Well, I don't see why it can't be both. It should be both. I think that if you're not having fun writing your comic, then there's something wrong with it. And that's one of the things, one of the few times Richard over at Comics Matter has actually replied to some of my stuff, although he's really good at reading everything, I'll give him that, was he did a video talking about one of the Marvel creators and how the magic was gone for them. And it was just, they were writing comics because it was their job and it was boring. And Richard could not understand this. And I made a comment in the comment section of his video saying, exactly. It should be a labor of love. It should be something where you're writing this comic because you love comics and you love the story that you're telling. And Richard said, exactly. He agreed with me 100%. And hopefully, that is what I am going to be doing. I'm going to be telling a fun superhero story and make a work of art. Although I'll have to say, Renzo is the artist here. I'm doing my best to keep up with Renzo's spectacular art, along with Nick's, which is what you see on the cover and in some of the pinups. But yeah, I think you can do both. So scrolling down a little bit. Let's see. Scrolling down. Drexel says, there are many ways to tell a story about protecting the environment without fear-mongering, guilt-tripping, or getting preachy. I believe some writers pull these stunts to get social merit badges. Yep, you hit the nail on the head right there. Again, I'm someone who believes in respecting the environment, but not for the reasons why any of these SJW progressive nonsense people actually give me. I do it out of love for what I see around me. So, scrolling down. Scrolling down. Red Skull says Superman and Aquaman should clean the plastic from the ocean. Yeah. Okay. One of the fun things, here's the funny thing. I might talk about this in a video. I think I might do another X-Men video this weekend, although it's probably going to be on something else than this. The funny thing is about Marvel is right now in the Marvel universe, you have the same virus going around because you had a Kamala Khan story in New York where she's going around with the mask. I don't think it was a comic story. I think it might have been because there was some art for it, but I didn't get to read the entire thing. I just read the promo for it, which had some of the story, and it was written in block text form. So it is happening in Marvel at this time. But at the same time, you have the X-Men selling vaccines and what medicines to people all over the world in order to blackmail them into okaying their status as a nation and making sure that they're under everybody's thumb. But wouldn't you think that if the X-Men could do all these things and create all these vaccines, that they couldn't come up with something to cure this, which I would say they probably do, they probably have, if this exists in the Marvel universe, which again, it appears from the Kamala Khan story that it does, and they're just not sharing that with the world. Wouldn't you? Isn't that an interesting way to think about it? I think it is. So scrolling down. Let's see. Brown Gaijin says, I hope one day to see you on a podcast like Young Ripper or Nerdrotic, if only to see your ideas and theirs get polished through conversation. That's a good idea. Nerdrotic is not someone who I watch on any regular basis. Young Ripper, I'm actually getting more and more into his channel. I did watch it a long time ago, more on a regular basis, and then I fell out, and I've been coming back to it. So I think he has a lot of good things to say. So I would not mind talking with him at all. Again, I certainly probably wouldn't mind talking with Nerdrotic at all, but I just think I would probably click with Young Ripa a little more. So scrolling down, KJ says, what is the main influence for the personality of Thomas Valiant in your book? The main influence for his personality. I honestly, the whole thing that, well, see, a lot of people ask me, what's a good way to write a story? And I really can't tell you what the good way for you to write a story is, but here's the way I write a story. I take an existing idea and I look at it, and it's usually a story that I've read or a comic that I've read. And usually the great thing about comics is that, and stories like comics, is that you have to stop reading. And at some point you got to put it down because certainly with new comics, you got to put them down and you got to wait for the next issue. And that's a great time for your thinking process, for your imagination to fill in the rest of the story and go, I hope this happens. Because if you're really into the story, certainly if I'm really into a story, I complete it in my head before it actually gets completed on the page. And some of the times the stories really, well, certainly not for most modern comics, but older comics anyways, the stories were better than I could have imagined. But for some stories, I go, no, that is not the way it should have gone at all. That is the worst ending ever. So what I do with those stories that I loved from the beginning, but hated at the end, is I take them and rewrite the ending for the story. And when I do that, then I feel like, okay, I've got enough story here that I should go back now and write the beginning of the story, which is what I do. And then I have a complete story. So it's based upon something, but it becomes a new story. So what I based my entire idea on is the fact that, first of all, the idea was I wanted to write something that looked like Marvel and DC. And I said, well, how can I do that together? Well, the idea came to mind. I wanted to write something as if the amalgam world, which happened in the late 80s, early 90s, I still don't even know the date when it actually came out, where you had Marvel and DC merged together. I said to myself, well, that was about the time when comics just started to go downhill anyways. So I said, what would happen if I took that world and I advanced it from, 30 years ago to today? What would it look like? And so I started to write a story based upon that. And so again, this would be an amalgamation of the two worlds. So amalgamation of Plastic Man and Mr. Fantastic. And so I started with more of a Plastic Man personality because, again, Thomas Valiant is basically thought of as a joke by the members of the old team that he used to be, which I label, which in my book is the Legion of Justice. And so he was seen as a joke, and he wants to get out of that and be an actual hero because he's seeing those other people in his old team as not actually being heroic. So that was the original personality. Again, it has some bits in it from Marvel with Plastic Man from DC and Mr. Fantastic from Marvel. But again, all I did was I took that point and I started writing a better ending to the story, and then I went back and said, okay, now I'm going to write the beginning of the story. So it's very interesting way to write a story. I love writing that way, although it may confuse other people. Hopefully, the story itself will be something that is completely new, so that again, I visually code some of the characters so that you go, oh, that character. Again, you're looking at the Jays in the background right now. A lot of people are going, isn't that just a bunch of robins? And yeah, it is a bunch of robins, but it is a bunch of robins that I wrote and then went back and changed about the robins and changed their character, and Renzo worked on their costumes, and we came up with new characters. But they're visually coded so that you look at them and going, yeah, they're going to have the powers of robins from the DC universe, but then you read the story and realize they're different characters. Anyway, I will ramble on about Thomas Valiant forever if someone doesn't stop me. So scrolling down just a little bit, let's see. Robert Roberts with the beautiful name of Robert Roberts says, did you see Jeff Jones' TV show Stargirl? What do you think of the first season? It involves the first critique in TV form of wokeness I've seen, but it wasn't anti-woke. No, I'm sorry, I haven't. He called later on in the, he says, calling for reformed wokeism. Now, I haven't actually got to watch anything. I don't watch American television anymore. I just don't. A lot of people are trying to get me to watch things, but and I do sometimes if they're relevant to what I'm talking about. But honestly, I really just don't watch American television anymore because it's garbage. It's woke garbage. And sooner or later, if it's not woke garbage, it's going to become more woke garbage. And that's the way they get you, because they try, well, the old way they get you is they try to get you into a story where it's a good story, and then they turn on the woke. And they say, oh, you like this character, therefore you like the ideas this character has, and these ideas are woke SJW ideas, so you're going to become that. So Darcy, I think it's Darcy, says, is the idea of a former villain using his inventions and ideas to actually help society because he wants to change himself, herself, for the better considered too much in most mainstream comics? I don't think so. That sounds like a really good story. That is actually part of my story because I have one of my characters, which is Ostrich. Again, he's a former villain, and that's part of why it's one of the things that drives my story along. He's a former villain, and his power is nothing physical. He actually invents things and deals with computers and can calculate probabilities really well. And he just wants to stop being a villain and try to be a hero for once. And Thomas Valiant actually is the one who talks him into this because he was a former villain of Thomas Valiant. So yeah, that's part of my story. So I think it actually would make a great story. It's only part of my story though. So anybody else can certainly pick up on that and make a beautiful story for themselves. So let's see. Oh, we're getting down to Bilbo Baggins. Zan XA. How do you pronounce XA? Anyways, YouTube has a lot of videos that mention Leonard Nimoy's Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. Okay, I'll have to look those up. I haven't got a chance to do so. This Chozo says, who is the main antagonist of Thomas Valiant? Honestly, I don't want to give away too much, but the main antagonist is Thomas Valiant himself. He's trying to become a hero, and again, it's the world that's against him. I don't think I can actually say any more than that. All the other quote unquote heroes of this world want him destroyed because he doesn't he doesn't want to play by their rules anymore. He wants to be a true hero. And so again, it's just them piling on one after another. Um, so, and he has to, so I guess, like I said, um, he has to fight with his own nature in order to make sure that he stays heroic. So I think that's what more the story is about. So here's an answer to my question. 145 long boxes. Wow. Holy. Wow. Okay. You must have, well, at the very least, a room full. 145 long boxes. I have, I don't know, about 35 long boxes. 145. Okay, I'm definitely checking out this channel. What is, again? Uh, he says that he has a channel where I can't find the where he says it up in the chat, but he has, click on his icon and see where this channel is, because he does reviews of these comics. 145 long boxes. I'm speechless. That is amazing. So Mud Valve says Leonard Nimoy's video of Song of Bilbo Baggins is on YouTube. Yes, great. Let's see. Old man says, oh, he's talking to Juba, JB. Again, I don't know how to pronounce anything but simple names. So that is an amazing collection. So Horde only. RJ, what do you think of comics published by Comic Historian's channel? Comic Historian's channel? I don't know. I can't say. I'm not familiar with his comics if he puts out comics. Let's see. KJ says, have you read Cyberfrog? What do you think about it? Honestly, like I said, I have a stack of crowdfunded comics that I have not got to read yet, and I still not have gotten to read Cyberfrog. It is on a shelf right next to me, so I haven't got to read it yet. No. So scrolling down, although I did receive it a little while ago, I have so many comics that I want to go through. Scrolling down, let's see. Lucas says, hey RJ, you watching Invincible? What do you think of it? Sorry, no. Again, my really only entrance into pop culture is comic books right now. It's all I can afford time wise. And that's because I can put them down anytime I want and pick them back up again. So scrolling down, let's see, scrolling down. Let me put Thomas Valiant back up in the background because that's better than looking at my avatar. Let's see. Trexel says, how do you feel about John Kent replacing Clark as Superman? Honestly, it's a kind of love-hate thing because, number one, I really think that the only way American comics are going to advance in any way is if they have stories that advance in the storyline in the universe. That is to say that they're not going to have the same character for 100 years coming on almost and not change him in any way. It's the same Clark Kent, but at the same time, I can't see it being anything that's going to be better than the old Superman. So I don't know how you would even do that for Superman. I could see it again. Marvel tried to do it, but they did with the woke garbage, trying to replace all the heroes, and that, of course, didn't work. If they actually put good characters and made it organic and put it in a story that actually made sense, then maybe. And I wish they could do those things. That's partly what my book is about. Like I said, I take the universe that was in existence in the late 1980s, early 1990s, and advance it 40 years and say, what does that world look like now? And so all of these heroes that would be in that world are now retired heroes. And you have probably 2 generations from them actually becoming heroes, or at the very least, the first generation from them now being the older heroes and the next generation being the younger ones. So I really think that's the future of comics, but how they can pull it off with Superman, I do not know. I don't think uh, John Kent is actually as heroic as Clark. Certainly not. But that's just, I think, my take on it. Scrolling down. See what we got here for comments. I'm already over my hour mark, so I guess that's out the window. Let's see. Comment on one of my comments saying, "What? Wait, no way the smartest men in the Marvel universe could let COVID-19 run free." Yeah, it appears that way from, again, the Kamala Khan story. It's certainly running free in the DC universe. You know that from multiple stories, especially I think it was Batman Black and White story that I covered in one of my reviews. He's definitely talking about that. So, anyways, scrolling down. KJ has a lot of good questions. KJ says, have you written a whole lot of world building for your fallen heroes in Thomas Valiant? Also, are these fallen Marvel DC heroes redeemable, or are they pure evil? No, they're redeemable. They're not pure evil. They're just evil in the sense of lazy evil. Again, that would be your SJW woke nonsense progressive evil, which is lazy evil, right? What they're, yes, I have written a lot of backstory for it because I wanted to flush out where the story was coming from. I always like parameters. This is exactly how I write. Again, I write things based upon, well, logic, and based upon, if all of these factors were at play, then what is going to be the result? So I had to fill in some of the holes for the backstory. And yes, I wrote a bunch of backstory. Like I said, I wrote the story for the main story, writing it as if it was a continuation of a 30-year jump in the Amalgam universe. And then I went back and wrote the backstory to change all of that to make it more in accord with what I wanted for what I wrote, because again, I wanted to give my characters their own heroes, their own universe, their own way of becoming who they were. But yes, the villains in the story, excuse me, again, are people who are redeemable. This is one of the things that Renzo has been talking to me about. One of the villains in the story, who thinks himself a hero, is what everybody usually points to as being a combination of Batman and Wolverine. And his name is Kit Fox in my world. And he is a character that Renzo wants to tell an entire story about. He says, please, 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 we need to do a redemption story for this character, because he wants to do a book about this character and this character alone. And I said, sure, we can do that. I think that we can get to that if, again, we get to a point where we can write a story like that. We can have a redemption story for this character. So, scrolling down, Anthony says, Amalgam happened in the late 1995. I was in college back then. Favorite panel, Gambit and Logan stealing the Batmobile right under Batman's face. I don't remember that one, but yes, thank you very much, Anthony. 1995. I'll take your word on that, and I will say that from now on, 1995. Scrolling down. Let's see, scrolling down. Let's see if I have, old man is making some good points about C.S. Lewis in the comments. But I'm going to scroll down and see if there's any more questions. Incubus says, I don't believe in supervillain redemption. I have met many villainous people, and none of them have ever turned to become a better person. Well, again, I don't know about that. Well, at the very least, if they are going to be redeemed, well, like I said, most of my characters, if they are villains, because they portray themselves as heroes. And I think that is a form of villainy that you probably see in Marvel right now. A lot of the heroes, they are villains. And they're villains because of the very fact that they think they're heroes. And that's the problem. They think they're doing right, and they have no concept of what right actually is. and they're just lazy because they want the attention. And well, again, they're written from people of the same ilk at Marvel, and that's where they're coming from. If they actually, you know, began to look into what heroism is, then I think that people like that could be redeemed. Let's see, scrolling down. Let's see what we got here. Scrolling down. Oh, we see Literature Devil in the comments as well. Is Thomas Valiant pro-America? Well, Literature Devil, I'll have to say, yes, he is pro-America, but my world is a bit different. As in, I want to build my world in a bit of a different way because, again, it does take a lot of its hints from the DC universe. It's not exactly Marvel, where every city is the same as you're going to find um, in normal U.S. in the normal states of America. It's going to be something a little bit different because, like in DC, where you have Metropolis and you have Keystone City and you have all these other cities that would be, you know, teeming metropolises that would take over an entire state. That is to say, would be the hub of the entire state, which would change the entire makeup of the country. So, again, my question was always, would it still be the same America? I don't really know. I think that it might change America to a very great degree if you had Gotham and Metropolis and Keystone and all these other cities. So I think the DC universe is a different America than actual America. To what extent, I don't know, but I want to play off of that a little bit. So yeah, he's pro-America, but like I said, what is America in this world might be a little different. Not that I want to go off on some political tangent in any way in my stories, not at all, but it has to do with something that you might actually enjoy. Because when we talked, you were talking about the fact that you want the map, I think it was, and I love maps, and drawing a map of this entire, I don't know, world or America in this world, and keeping it to myself is something that I want to tease out for a long time and see if people can put together what the differences are between this America on the page of my books and actual America. Again, it would work in a DC way. So, scrolling down. Let's see, scrolling down. Literature Devil says Cyberfrog Blood Honey is actually pretty well constructed. One of the best in CG as far as I've read. Again, it's on my shelf. I really need to read it. So, scrolling down. My feed just jumped to me. Just give me 1 second. Replicant says, criminally under sub channel. Thank you very much. Although I am happy with the, what now, 14,000 subscribers that I had. I think that's more than I ever anticipated that I would ever get. It was weird. Well, honestly, I know a lot of people don't like Benjamin, don't like Sargon. But Sargon is probably the person who catapulted my channel into where it is right now, because he kept on talking about my channel on his channel, and we did a couple of videos where we responded to each other. So I got a lot of people moving over to my channel because of that, and I jumped in subscribers every time that he would talk about my channel, which was great. I appreciate that so much. But I never thought that I would get 14,000 subscribers. So you may think that I deserve a whole lot more, but I think that I appreciate everyone that's here. And as long as I keep doing that, then that's what I need to do. If more people come, great. So let's see, scrolling down, Meta says, the supplement book for Connie Mack, American Evil, is amazing. Did any of you get it? Kami Mark. No, I have no idea, but I'll have to look that up. So scrolling down. Let's see. Here's something I got to comment on. Fabio. Honestly, I don't like Falcon becoming Captain America. I like Falcon being Falcon and Cap being Cap. I agree. I haven't got, again, I don't really watch American television. I get snippets of it here and there, and I watch bits and pieces sometimes, especially if it's going to impact what I'm doing with comics. But trying to make, again, if they're going to, first of all, yes, I agree, the Falcon should remain Falcon and Captain America should remain Captain America. They're doing a disservice to both characters by trying to cram them both together. But at the same time, if they're going to try to make this Falcon in the show the same Falcon that they made in the comics, they already know that that failed miserably. What in the world they're thinking, I don't know. So scrolling down, let's see. Francisco says, are you going to check out the X Gala, or do you prefer to avoid that? Well, I'm certainly not going to buy a whole lot of it, but like I said, I usually go to my comic store and I just grab things. So I will probably grab a couple. Although Modern X-Men really drives me crazy, and I will probably only be buying them because I know I'm going to roast them in some way, shape, or form, or keep up on the nonsense. I gotta keep up on all the nonsense going on with X-Men, because literally they're villains. There's no two ways about it. They're villains. So scrolling down, drat. Sorry, my feed jumped on me once again for the chat. So I just gotta find where I am because I don't want to miss any of your comments. So scrolling up and then scrolling back down. There's a lot of talk about, well, I'm not entirely sure in the comments, so I'll leave you all to your conversation. Let's see, scrolling down. Let's see, Drexel says, how do you feel about Valiant Comics and their lineup? I haven't really seen much on the shelf, honestly, lately. I don't know why. Maybe it's my comic shop just stopped getting them in because they weren't selling. I used to do comic reviews of Valiant Comics every once in a while. I always loved the idea of Valiant Comics, and I bought them when they first came out, like all of the titles. I bought them one after another. I have consecutive runs from one all the way forward for Magnus, for XO, for even Harbinger, and Rye when it came out, and a bunch of others. But they always failed me. I just wanted those characters to so much take off and have good stories written for them. And there were people who were writing and doing the art who could do great art and good stories, and they just failed time and time again. So, and I don't think they've ever recovered. I think they've only gone downhill. But again, I don't know what the present stuff looks like because I haven't seen it in over a year on my shelf. I honestly haven't. So scrolling down, let's see, scrolling down. Juba says, I came here due to Sargon. Yeah, see, I have a lot of subscribers because of Sargon. Again, I try to thank him whenever I can. Scrolling down. Let me put Thomas Valiant up one more time. I think I'm getting to the bottom of the comments. Close to the bottom of the comments anyways. Let's see. Fabio says, hey, it's cool. I appreciate you, Fourth Age, because you are honest and a great artist. Can't wait to read your comment or comic. Well, I think you should hold off on the praise of being a great artist, because Renzo is the one doing the art. I'm just doing the storytelling, and you'll have to wait until you see my storytelling, see if it's great or not. Hopefully people will consider it great. I am doing everything I can to make it so. So scrolling down, let's see. A couple of comments. Let's see. Hal says, Professor Geek is against redemption for aspirational heroes like Batman. According to him, if they stray once, they're not real heroes. I'd like to see you debate him with that. Actually, I've been talking to Professor Geek, and we've just exchanged a couple of emails. First time we've done so for probably about 6 months. And we're probably going to get a live stream together if we can get it hammered out. So to talk about such things. So we're hoping to do so at the very least. So I think I'm coming close to the bottom of the chat. Let's see if we have any more questions. Scrolling down just a little bit more. Flame Destroyer says, what do you think the best highly political series is? I have no idea, honestly. If it has something political in it, I usually just drop it. I don't want politics in my comics. I'm sorry, I don't. So scrolling down. Time of Dying says, have you looked at current Lady Death or anything else Coffin comics? I have not. Again, what I'm trying to do, I said this last time with my live stream, what I'm trying to do is only buy things off the shelf. I think that even if I don't like them, if I'm reviewing them, I need to buy them. I need to find them on the shelf. I'm that kind of person where I need to have a physical book in my hand, and my comic shop, the one that I go to anyways, there's a couple that I could go to, but honestly, some of them I just don't want to give my money to. And I think you could probably figure out why, because progressive comics breed progressive comic sellers. But the place that I do go to, it has taken a hit lately, I think, and it has severely cut back on the amount of titles it is putting on the shelf, and I don't blame the guy who runs the place. So I haven't really gotten to see anything like that, unless you're talking about something online that they're selling. And again, I haven't gotten to any Lady Death in the last little while. So I am, I think, at the bottom. So it is already half an hour over my time where I wanted to cut short my live stream for the week. So thank you very much from me to everyone who has come. And just to let everybody know once again, before I leave, if you're not getting notifications for my normal videos, they are up every weekend. So you might want to check my channel. I put them up either on a Saturday or a Sunday. So there's that. And the link, of course, is in the description for Thomas Valiant. If anyone has not gotten to see my graphic novel yet, you can click on the link in the description. You're looking at the art in the background, the amazing art by Nick X and Renzo Rodriguez. And I am going to take the rest of my time in the week and continue working on everything that I need to get that book out into your hands as soon as possible. So again, thank you very much to everyone who has come to my live stream. Again, as I said in my post for my channel, my live stream is a bumbling, well, we'll say host, that's me, and poor quality and just ranting about comics. But at the very least, you get to ask some questions and we get to discuss and talk about some fun things. So thank you all for coming, and thanks for your great questions and comments. So I'll leave it there. I'll see you all later. Bye.